Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Perspective with Viv podcast. My name is Viv, and welcome to the show. Today's topic is titled A for Akashic Records, and I have a wonderful guest with me, introducing Gloria Battini. Hi.
Hello, Viv. Thank you so much for having me. I'm super
It-
excited to be here.
it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me. Before we start, I'm going to read out your bio for the listeners, and
Yeah.
then we'll dive straight into the questions. Okay?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. So, Gloria Battini is a transformational guide, spiritual teacher, and empathic visionary with a mission to empower humanity to transcend limitations and step into their highest potential. Yes. She envisions a new earth, one where we live in harmony with the planet, the cosmos, and each other. Through her work, Gloria invites people to embrace self empowerment, heal deeply, and align with their soul's true path, creating a ripple effect that touches the world. Gloria's mission is to help individuals reconnect with their soul's truth, overcome limitations, and step fully into their power, all with the vision of building a more conscious, compassionate world. In this vision of a new earth, Gloria sees each person embracing their unique gifts, collectively creating a world rooted in love, freedom, and harmony. Thank you so much for joining us. Wow, that's a lovely
Thank
bio.
you. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So, how are you today? I love your energy, I must say. Immediately we started talking, I was like, oh my gosh, it feels like I've known you before.
I know. I do believe that these connections are never casual, are they? Are never like random, sorry. Are never
Definitely.
random. And there's always, yeah, energies attract each other, right? Different
Yes.
energies get attracted. So yeah, I love your energy too.
Thank you. Because when I said hi, you're like, hi, babe. I was like, what? This is me. I love that. Oh my gosh. Thank you so much. So, let me dive straight into the question.
Yeah.
So, what exactly are the Akashic Records and why are they such a valuable tool for healing and personal growth?
Yes, I love the Akashic Records. So, imagine, I think that the most popular way to describe the Akashic Records is the library of souls, essentially. So, imagine if everything that we are, everything that we've ever been, and everything that exists, imagine it has somewhere to be stored, somewhere to be. Imagine this massive library of everything that has ever existed for yourself and for the rest of the world as well. So it is a beautiful way to, it's obviously energetically speaking, right? And so it's a beautiful way to access our multidimensional selves and the history of our soul. And that is important, like you were saying, for our soul's development or our self-development as well. Because there's only so much that we can do with the physical. There comes a point in somebody's development, in somebody's spiritual, awakening, spiritual development, there comes a point where you want to go further, where you're ready to explore who you were, who you've been, where you're going. You want to explore your karma. You want to explore the relationships that you've had in your life and the meanings of those relationships. And so the Akashic Records are the perfect way to do that. It is very, very healing and so expanding in a way. Yeah. Yeah.
Wow, thank you for answering that. How can someone tap into their own Akashic records?
So I would say you can find probably some guided meditations online that can help you do that. I don't have any because I was trained to go into people's Akashic records, but I do believe that there are some meditations out there that you can try. The best way I would say is to go with somebody who is trained to do it, simply because um, as funny as this might sound, you don't want to mess with your records, right? You don't want to mess with your records. They imagine that you are in this beautiful, pristine library. You don't just walk in and pick something up,
Hmm.
you know? You don't necessarily just do that. We have guides, we have spirit guides that help us go there. I don't personally go in the records. I have a guide that, and I say, when I, let's say if I were to read your records, I would say, I
I would
have
love
Viv
that, by
here,
the way.
right? I have Viv here. She wants to explore this and this and this about what she's going through now, or a specific relationship or anything. And at that point, I would say, show us what she needs to see. Bring down from the records anything that she needs to see that it's relevant to this topic that she wants to explore. And then at that point, we can encounter anything. We don't know. We just ask the question. And then very often we can be brought down soul contracts. We can be looking at past lives. We can be looking at certain karma. We can be looking at even like your own energy. So there's so many things that at that point can be looked at. And it's very vast. So if you do it, you can do it yourself. And I know that there are some really, really good guided meditations out there. But if you do it with somebody who is trained to do that, you can get a much deeper experience, I believe. Yes, because
No.
we probably know what to ask and at what point to allow you to have the best experience for yourself. So yeah, I would say that probably with a practitioner is best.
Okay. Thank you for that. So, in what ways can accessing these records help someone release emotional blocks or past trauma?
So a lot of the emotional blocks and traumas that we have, so there's some, okay, let's backtrack here. So there's different ways we can look at this. So it can be emotional blocks or past trauma that comes from this life that you're living, or it can be coming from a past life. So if it is from this life, first of all, you can be aware of it or not. Maybe you know that it's from this life, but you might not know. Okay. You might just feel like, okay, I feel like I have this emotional blocks. Maybe I have a vague idea of what it could be referring to, but I'm not quite sure. So in that case, we can go into the records and we can ask. We can say, okay, the person is feeling this and this and this, and they don't know where it's coming from. Can you show us? And again, so it can be that they show us specific contracts, specific relationships in the current life, or it could also be that they show us past lives from which you're carrying said emotional blocks. Usually, I have to say, if somebody knows, if the block is in this life that the person is living, they very likely know. They have an idea, because maybe they've lived through their own childhood. They have, they're aware of their relationships and that sort of stuff. So if it is this life, more often than not, the person knows that it's this life and the relationship or episodes that it's referring to, or events that it's referring to. But when it's hard to pinpoint, 90% of the time, 99% of the time, is a past life, because our conscious mind is not picking it up. So it's deeper. And so how the Akashic Records can help us, it can help us, first of all, identify the origin of the emotional blocks, identify what they refer to. So if they refer to a past life, they can tell us what happened in that past life, why did it happen, and they can tell us how to release it as well. And if it is in this current life, then it could maybe have to do with some karmic cycles that need to be closed. Maybe, it can have to do with some current relationships. And then at that point, if that's the case, then we can ask more and more questions to dig deeper and bring more awareness into the surface. And then, I mean, I don't know if everybody does this, who is every Akashic record guide does this, but whenever I find any blocks, I do clear them as part of my sessions energetically. So I don't just leave the person be like, yeah, so this is where it's coming from. That's it. I don't
That's
do
a good
that.
one.
I don't do that. So we always go, and whatever we encounter, we try to energetically dissolve it or heal it. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. That was an in-depth answer. And I really appreciate that because I've
Yeah.
been drawn to the Akashic Records for such a long time. But from what you're saying, it's best to do it with a practitioner than you
Yeah.
do it. But there are some guided meditations that someone can start with. But I'm
Yeah.
interested. If I was ever getting my Akashic Records read, it would be you that would read them for me. So I'm just
Yes.
letting you know that I would definitely come to you
Yes.
for a service.
Yeah.
However, if you're open to giving a brief one to me on this podcast, we can talk about that. So just let me know.
Oh, well, the thing is, when you say brief one, that's the issue here. I would absolutely love, but it's a lengthy process.
Oh,
It's a lengthy process. So, um, I would do you a disservice if I
mm,
did it very quickly here,
okay.
because you never, first of all, we can't predict what comes up. So remember that you're working with spirit. And so if you ask, what do I need to see, we don't know what's going to come up. So it is possible that we go into something that you might not want to be sharing publicly, but it is also possible that we go into something that might require a long time for us to explore, because you might have more questions. And so it does require time. Yes. So all the Akashic Records sessions that I do are at least 90 minutes.
Oh
It's
wow,
the
that's really
longest
good.
sessions that I do. And sometimes we do very often go over time as well, because it does take some exploration, some digging, because there's a lot to find out. So
Yeah.
yes,
Okay.
yeah,
Thank
it's
you.
not like a 5 minute thing. No.
Well, I'm glad. Yeah, I'm glad that you've explained it now because for someone that doesn't even really know about it, like if they're curious about it, they would know now that it's something that they need to be very aware of in terms of working with a practitioner that knows what they're doing. Not something. It's not
Yeah,
something that they should just try on themselves because they wouldn't understand what it's all about. Like you said, it's a pristine library. You can't just
yeah,
walk in, right? I like that you use
yeah,
that terminology or
yeah.
metaphor. All
Yeah.
right.
And also, another thing that I would suggest is for people to prepare as well. So, if you would like to explore your Akashic Records, then make sure you go into a session with an objective. So, what do you want to explore? You can go with an open session, with an open question, and just say, oh, I just want to the guides to tell me what is it that I need to know right now. Okay. And that's very open.
Mhm.
But remember that this is a very deep session, and why would you just want to, just leave it like that, right? Utilize it as the beautiful opportunity that it is to get to know yourself better and get to know the history of your soul as well. So if there is something specific that you're working on right now and you would like to know about yourself, then prepare questions, right? So a lot of people, for example, they are starting, I work obviously with a lot of people that are in the spiritual world. So a lot of people are coming away from the classic, 9 to 5 jobs to become, spiritual practitioners and stuff. And so they want guidance, what can I do? What do I need to know? Have I been a spiritual practitioner before? What did I do? So then we go in and ask these sort of questions to say, okay, this person is going through this right now. Show us past lives or anything that we need to know, that the person needs to know now, about how they've done this in the past, how their soul is contracted to do this in this life, in which way is going to come up, what people do they need to connect with. So it's very, I would go in with questions for sure. I would highly recommend that. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. Thank you for that. So let's talk about past lives for a little bit because I love past lives.
Yeah.
I've done past life
Yeah.
regressions like a number of times, and oh my goodness, I love the idea of us having lived so many lives and us bringing in certain traits, mannerisms, maybe even memories, pain, patterns, certain relationships into our present lives. A lot of us don't know that we're repeating cycles from another life or lives, but I love that whole concept of past lives. Honestly, it's one of the best things that I know about the spiritual world. So,
Yeah.
how do past lives impact our current lives, and how does understanding them help us move forward?
Yes. So I'm going to tell you something about past lives.
Mm.
I'm gonna share a secret. I don't think it's a secret. I don't think it's a super secret. But a lot of people say past lives, right? The truth about past lives is that they're not in the past.
Are they parallel?
Yes. Yes. They absolutely are. So the
Wow.
reason why, so time only exists for us here, right? Time only exists for us here on Earth because it's the way that it is, because we decided that this was how it goes, right? So at an energetic level, everything is happening all at once, right? So even because I'm a spiritual medium as well, right?
Yes.
So once our loved ones, or once we pass and we go to the other side, first of all, is not the other side, it's the same side as us.
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
it's not the other side. We call it the other side, but it's
Because we
not the
can't
other
see
side.
it.
Exactly that. We can't see
Hmm.
it, so we call it the other side. We can physically see these other lives, so we call them past lives. But actually, energetically, everything is happening all at once. So imagine that your soul is this bundle, like nucleus bundle of energy, okay? And it's perpetual. It's forever existing. It's always been and it always will be. Okay? It's a perpetual eternal soul. And from this nucleus, energetic nucleus, you can have loads of different um strands, loads
Okay.
of different links, different cords, energetic waves coming out of it, right? And they're all at the same time, but these different energetic waves are what we call all of our different lives. And so
Okay.
some of our different lives, they're all happening. They're all happening because time is in fact an illusion. Energetically, it's all perpetual.
Oh.
Even when we do mediumship, so when we speak to the other side, we speak to the part of the soul that we physically met, but that person has got many different lives going on all at the same time, right? And it's so beautiful because all of our past quote unquote past lives, all of our lives are bleeding into each other as well, right? That's why we learn from them so much. That's why we gain so much inspiration from them. That's why, when I was saying earlier, sometimes you might have energetic blocks and you can't figure out what it is in this life. And it's very likely something that is happening to you at a different level, right? At a different life, because it bleeds into each other. But essentially, yes, everything is happening all at once. So to answer your question, understanding our past lives, it can be really important because, first of all, it gives you an awareness of the vastness of your soul, right? You're not just this person living this life right here. Yeah, you're so much more and so much bigger than that. And I think that gaining awareness of who we actually are at a soul level is very healing, and it can really help us navigate life in a much different way, because I really believe that a lot of the stuff that is happening in the world right now, a lot of the stuff that we are unhappy with, a lot of the evil and really really dark things that are happening, I really truly believe that the origin of it is people not feeling enough, is people not believing in themselves, is people being disconnected, right? So the more you connect to your past lives and the more you understand your own vastness, then the more you show up in the world in a different way, because you show up with a different confidence, you show up with a different awareness, you're more compassionate, you're more tolerant, you're more open, you're less judgmental. So understanding how you truly are at a soul level is incredibly healing and very, very expansive. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you for that answer. So many layers to it. So I'll start with the first thing
Yeah.
that came to mind when you said it. You're the second person that is saying, or I'm hearing say that it's not past lives, it's parallel lives. And I love that. I really, really love that because we do say that everything is frequency and it's about vibing to that frequency. Like if we can match the frequency of a particular past life, we can really like absorb information from there, which links me to my next thing. like I said, I've done past life regressions before, and I've had tons of readings where my past lives come up or my parallel lives come up. I've had a parallel life where I was a high priestess, which was a no brainer because I'm very intuitive and I love to see life from a spiritual lens. Like the material world is boring to me. I love the ethers. I love mediumship. I love communicating with spirit, like tapping deeper into nature. Those things that we don't see or hear. I love to know what it's all about because I can feel it. You get me? So
Yes.
that
Yeah.
parallel life of being a high priestess, nice. And in Egypt as well, which was funny because you know how we say that when you feel drawn to certain things and you don't know why, it's your parallel life. Oh gosh, I just love that
Yes.
concept. And then
Yes.
another parallel life of me reading the stars. I'm an astrologer in this present life or in this current life. And I can't tell you how I got to know how to read the stars. I can't tell you how I just can read it and analyze and can put two and two together, the math and read a chart. I don't know how, right? The same thing with tarot reading. I just had this calling to pick up a tarot card. And I've been doing tarot reading for like possibly 8 years now. And I keep saying from when I first started tarot reading, I was like, I've done this before. I didn't know anything about parallel lives then, but I was like, I've done this before. I must have known how to do this before for this to come so easily, especially because of my background, being a Nigerian woman. You don't have many, or at least back then when we were just starting, it was so odd for you to be an African woman reading tarot cards. Where they're like, what the heck? Like, where's that coming from? Like, who are you? So everybody was looking at me like this, so odd. But I've always been that kind of person, like doing things that people haven't done before, odd, innovative, whatever I want to call it. But I just knew that this is what I was meant to do. And I love tarot reading. I love it. Like it's a part of my soul, the same way astrology is. And when they told me about a parallel life in which I was reading the stars to lead my camp to a different destination, and I was the one that was the leader,
Yeah.
I was like, oh wow, so that's where it came from. Unfortunately, in that life, I was killed for the
Mhm.
work that I was doing. But it made me more aware of the fact that I had to be aware in this life of my gifts and who I was around and how I showed up. And the message or the lesson from that parallel life was to look at the bigger picture. And I can now tell you that now I look at life from a bigger picture. Before it was very condensed, but oh my goodness, because I can now zoom out, there's so like life is richer. So I love how with parallel lives, you can kind of like what's the right word? Get the wisdom and imbibe it into your current life or the life that you're currently living consciously. But another
Yeah.
thing about the movie, Everything Everywhere All at Once, which I really, really loved. Have you watched it?
Yes, I have.
Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
The
Yeah. Yeah.
fact
It's
that
great.
they could do different things to tap into the timeline of a particular life was so freaking amazing.
Yes,
What?
it was.
What? They had to do like
Yes.
particular things. And I'm like, if you can do this in this film, you can do that in real life.
Yes.
It's like codes, like, maybe, okay, me doing tarot reading is tapping into the parallel life in which I was a tarot reader in the past, but maybe I didn't finish my journey or complete my journey because people thought I was a witch and they burnt me at the stake. And then now I'm in this conscious life and I'm redoing it and I'm going to fight anybody that's trying to like ostracize me or vilify me for doing something that seems witchy. You know what I'm saying? It's like
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
it's beautiful. I mean, okay, so what's your perspective about the movie before we move on to the next question?
I love the movie. I loved the movie so much. I truly, truly did. And like you said, I do believe that there's a lot of truth in it. Maybe it doesn't. I think. Okay. I do believe that there's a lot of truth in it. I also do believe that that's one way that they decided to represent something that it's a very, very spiritual and non-physical concept, right?
Okay.
So they had to put something that it's invisible in a way, right? They had to make it through a visual medium, right? Which is a movie. So they had to
Hmm.
sort of translate that. But I honestly believe that we can already do that. I do honestly believe that we can already do that. I think that we can tap. This is what I was saying. Like if you really expand your own consciousness and if you really understand how multidimensional you are, then I call it living at soul level, right? So if you stop seeing yourself as this, do you remember earlier when I was talking about the nucleus with all the lives attached to it, right? So if
Yeah.
you stop seeing yourself as that singular life, but you start going through life as the nucleus that is attached to everything, I believe that we can already do it. It's just a matter of changing the way that we perceive ourselves. And it might not be easy simply because there has been so much conditioning in terms of what's real, what's not, what's possible, what's not possible. But I believe that it's just that, it's just conditioning, and our brain doesn't yet think that we can do it, but we absolutely can. Maybe not in the way that they represented it in the movie. As I said, they needed to show it in a certain way for visual medium. But I believe that at a spiritual level, through meditation, through this sort of stuff, we can already tap into a lot of that stuff. Yeah. Yeah.
I believe you when you say that for sure.
Yeah.
Like I like that we have these concepts that we're seeing visual representations of to let people know what's really possible in life. So that
Yeah.
film was really something that awakened that aspect of me, or kind of like further expanded my love for the concept of parallel lives for sure. Like it was just a beautiful film. Okay, so let's move
It
on because I
was.
could be here forever. Let's
Yes.
talk about mediumship. Okay.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
is mediumship?
Mediumship is a technique to talk to our loved ones who have crossed, who don't have a body anymore, and have gone back to being energy. That's
Oh,
what mediumship
wow.
is.
Very
Yes.
profound. Wow. So
Yes.
many people have intuitive experiences, but they doubt themselves. How can someone recognize and trust their natural psychic abilities?
Oh, thank you for asking that question. Thank you so much. I think that the most important thing that I can say, what I want everyone to know, is that we truly are all psychic. Like, that's the first thing, right? So if you have a belief that you're not, then that's the first thing that you need to do. The first thing that you need to do is to come to terms with the fact that you already are psychic. That's how you're born. That's how every single person is born, with a very high intuition, very psychic, with all of the senses very open. And then what happens is that we go through life and we grow up and we get disconnected. Sometimes we get disconnected because of childhood experiences that we have. Sometimes it's society that tells us certain things about what it means to be psychic or what it doesn't mean. Sometimes it's movies. Sometimes it's teachers. You have so many people externally that filter their opinion, you know about what being psychic is and what it represents, that it makes you feel like you're an outcast. And sometimes, well, actually, most of the time, all we want to do is fit in, especially when we're growing up, because we want to feel secure. We want to feel like we belong somewhere, right? So if we have something that is going to make us stand out in a weird way, we're like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's risky. I don't want to do that. Let me disconnect. Maybe this thing that I'm feeling is not true. Maybe it's just my imagination. Maybe I'm just, maybe it's something else. It's not what it is. Clearly, all this stuff is impossible. So that's the first thing. So you need to, number one, switch the belief that you can't be psychic, because that's how we are all born. Okay. We are all born with an intuition. There is not one person on the planet that doesn't have an intuition. We all have it. So what we need to do is be more connected to it, right? So it's understanding and how you connect to it, by getting rid of all the conditioning, getting rid of all those beliefs about what it means to be psychic and everything. But then also there are specific meditations that you can do to heighten your intuition. You can do training, you can do psychic training, all this sort of stuff. It's going to help you. But another thing that I want to touch on is that, in a lot of places and in a lot of places and for a lot of people, psychics are seen as people with special gifts. Okay, quote unquote special gifts. It's not a gift. Okay. Nobody is the chosen one. Nobody, that's no. Okay. I'm sorry, but it's not special. Okay. And I am so mad. I get so mad when certain people are like, oh, this gift. And I'm like, you know, even when people say it to me, oh, your gifts are such gifts. And I'm like, I just go to the gym for it. I just go
I
to
love
psychic
that.
gym, right? I just go to psychic gym every day, and I don't have anything more than you do, right? But that's what I choose to channel my energy. That's what I choose to, that's the workout that I choose to do every day, multiple times a day. I might not have a six pack, but my intuitive abilities are strong because of that, because that's the exercise that I choose to do, right? So that's that. So we need to stop seeing it as this special gift, because another thing that unfortunately a lot of people don't do is believe in themselves. So if we are seeing these, psychic ability as a special gift, then people are saying to themselves, oh, I'm not special enough to have them, right? And that's a real shame. That's a real shame,
Definitely.
because it doesn't have anything to do with being special. You don't have to come from a certain lineage of something in
That
order
part.
to be right. You don't have to, you're not chosen. You're not like, no, you just simply the fact that you're born, you have an intuition, you're naturally psychic, because this is what human beings are. But you don't think that you are, because for centuries there has been so much conditioning around what being psychic is, and there's been so much effort to disconnect ourselves, right? To disconnect people from their own intuition. And the only reason is, imagine if however many billion peoples we have on the planet right now, because I lost count. I think it's 8 billion, but whatever, however many it is that we have now. Okay. Imagine that we're all connected. Imagine that we all of a sudden we have all this true connection with ourselves. We believe in ourselves because we believe in our intuition. We know that we trust our gut more than we trust anything else that can come from the outside. We can recognize when we're being manipulated. We can recognize when we're being disconnected. So imagine if all of this happens, who loses out? So if we have been disconnected, it's for a reason,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? If
Yeah.
we're being disconnected, it's for a reason. I do believe that the reason has to do with control.
Mm-hmm.
I really do believe that the reason has to do with control. Um, but we're waking up. We're waking up. A lot, more and more people are waking up every day, and they're coming home to themselves. And I truly believe, when you read my bio, that I truly believe that this new earth is absolutely possible. I really see it. I know that that's where we're headed. And I know that the single thing standing between us and getting there is us coming home to ourselves. That's it.
Yes, I totally agree with you. And you know what you were saying about us being connected is a beautiful thing that I said, because if we're all aware of ourselves and come home to ourselves, then we will realize that there's telepathy between us, that I don't need to speak for you to hear what I'm saying. We
Exactly.
don't need to be physically together to connect heart to heart. Oh,
Yes.
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 I love
Yes.
that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And imagine a world like that. I also do believe that the world was like that.
Mm.
I do
Early
believe that
days.
in the,
Yeah.
millions of years that we've
Yeah,
had,
definitely.
I really truly believe that there were
I agree.
some place in history, sometime in history where it was like that. It would be interesting to know what happened. And but again, so much of our history is manipulated and hidden, and it's a shame. It's a shame. But hopefully, with all of us waking up,
Yeah,
hopefully we'll find out and we'll get to that
definitely.
place again.
And for me, I do like that in your bio, you spoke about New Earth. I used to speak about New Earth a lot. And I feel as though maybe I realized that, okay, I felt like more of an individual because I didn't feel like I had people around that were on that same vibe. But
Mhm.
like you said, people are waking up now that you're like, oh my gosh, like I remember when I felt like I was the only one on this journey, and now you're seeing so many people. I'm seeing tarot readers in Lagos. I'm like, what the hell? Like, where have you
Yes.
guys been? I love that. So yeah, we are waking up, and I'm very, very optimistic about New Earth for sure. I'm very, very excited. I'll do my part, you do your part, and we all
Yeah.
come together and create a change, a movement.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah.
So how do spirit guides assist us in unlocking our psychic potential if they do? And how can we begin communicating with them?
I love spirit guides. Ah, spirit guides are such a cozy subject.
Hmm.
They're a cozy subject because so the this is what I learned from my experience with spirit guides. Some spirit guides are external to us, and some spirit guides are parts of us, if that makes sense. So,
Sorry to interrupt. When you say parts of
yeah,
us, do you mean like ancestors?
no, I mean
Okay.
like energetically parts of us. Yeah. So parts of
Oh.
our being, um, it's us, but the energy is presented in a different way, if that
Hmm.
makes sense, right? It's parts of internal parts of ourselves that come from that nucleus, from that soul nucleus that we have. So I and some of them are external, so that is ancestors. That is ancestors. Could be like angels, could be, angels, archangels, could be,
Ascended
yeah.
masters.
Exactly. Yes. Ascended master. This, all this sort of stuff. Yes. Very often I find that spirit animals can be parts of ourselves. Spirit animals are like, I mean, I'm not an expert on spirit animals, but this is what I've understood from the spirit guide sessions that I've done, over the past few years. So yes, so there's some of them that are external to us, and some of them is part of ourselves. So how do they help us? My experience has been that there we all have guides if we decide to open up to our own psychicness, to really, really embark on that journey. There are guides that we have that are specifically there for us to help us do that. And the way that um that works is that whatever work you're doing, whatever psychic work you're doing, the guide becomes an extension of yourself. So when you do psychic work, you move a lot of energy around, right? Through yourself, you connect to the energy of the other person and everything. So it is a type of work, a line of work that a lot of people find exhausting, really tiring, but that's because they don't know the power of the spirit guides, right? You can connect to your own healing guides, to your own Akashic record guides, to your own, right? And help them. And so your energy works through them. So you're not exhausted spending your own energy, right? So they can be a huge help from that point of view. So really assisting us in the psychic work that we're doing. But again, train. You need to be training for this. You absolutely need to be training for this. But in terms of everyday life, through meditations, there's loads of meditations that you can do to meet your guides, and also pay attention to what you feel attracted to. Pay attention to what pops in your dreams. Pay attention to, even if you go somewhere and you feel attracted to, I don't know, an oracle deck. What is the deck about? Is it about spirit animals, or is it about angels? Everything is a clue. Everything is a synchronicity. If everything is energy in movement, in motion. And so follow the clues, right? So some of the, yes, in our everyday life, they can really help us go through life. They can help us feel less alone. I definitely know that since I've done my psychic training, I have not felt loneliness ever again, because I just feel like I have so much around me, so many
That's
guides,
wonderful.
and yeah, it's really beautiful. That's why I also think it's a really powerful work to be doing, or powerful aspect of ourselves to opening up to, because it's not only that you're coming home to yourself, but it's you understanding that you're actually never been alone. you know,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful. Yeah.
It is beautiful. And one thing that stands out to me, because I've done mediumship training, oh my goodness, like for me, how I feel is like it's like swimming for me. It's like, entering water. You know how water can be? It's like you're tapping into the ethers. And we've done like meditations, some visualization exercises. And I'm like, wow, I wouldn't have been aware of these guides if I didn't do this. And then
Yeah.
one thing I do love, because I also have dreams that, they messages come in and you have to like interpret the symbology. I love breaking down dreams. I love like
Oh yeah.
symbology. I love all of that. So when we were doing our mediumship training, there was a lot of visualization and a lot of like, scenes that you saw, and you had to break them down and see what they were telling you. And I was like, wow, like life is so vast, and if you tap into this, it's crazy. I haven't gotten to a point where I'm very, very aware of my spirit guides, but I am aware of my ancestors. But I do love that the journey is so vast and what's the right word, vibrant, that there are so many aspects that you can explore. Like I don't
Yeah.
even say, like I could go on and on. But for you, like what are specific like practices or exercises that you do to strengthen your intuition and that you'd like to share with us?
I am constantly meditating. I literally am. I'm constantly meditating and I'm constantly connecting to my guides.
Mm,
Really multiple times a day, every day. This is also my job though. So I do that because I also have loads of sessions,
for
during
sure.
the day and stuff. So I connect with my guides in order to do the sessions, So all of that, yes. But the basic thing that I always do is just cleansing my energy every day. I do an energy cleansing meditation at the start of each day, and it's a meditation that I repeat then during the day before and after every session, right? But I like to take a longer time when I can. If I don't have many sessions, if I have a little bit more time for myself in the morning, I usually use some cacao, and I just connect and just go on a journey. I just ask, what is it that I need to know today? Where do I need to be taken today? I call all my guides, and I just go on a journey. I just sit there, and sometimes I visit some past lives. Sometimes I connect with different beings. Sometimes I meet different guides that I need to
Mm,
be meeting, and sometimes I even have specific questions. So I do meditate a lot. Yes, I would say that that's probably the most yeah, the thing that I do the most for sure. Yeah. If you're starting out, I would say that just simply spending, if you're at the very beginning and you want to start doing this kind of work, I'd say that probably, yes, an energy cleansing meditation once or twice a day for like a couple of weeks straight will already show you your potential. Like
okay.
if you do that, connecting every day, energy cleansing, just by doing that, you will notice a difference.
Okay.
And as you cleanse your energy every day, then you will start giving out a different kind of energy. And when you
Mm,
give out a different kind of energy, then you have different things coming back to you. So
yeah.
I would say that would probably be the best thing. Yeah, starting
Okay.
with that energy cleansing. Yeah.
All right. Thank you so, so much. Those are all my questions. And I did want to ask you, would you like your
Yeah.
tarot reading on the podcast or off the podcast?
Oh my goodness. Well, I don't know what's gonna come up,
I
so
know.
let's keep it. I don't
Yes.
know. Let's keep
Let's
it.
save it for after this
Let's
episode.
save it. Yes, I would say let's save it. You never know.
Yeah, you never know. And that,
Yeah.
that's the same thing that you said about the Akashic records. Like you couldn't give me a
Yeah.
reading because you never know what's going to come up. And one
Yeah.
thing I do love is that with these like mediums or modalities, there's so much that comes up, and it's like it's very vulnerable, it's very deep, but it's
Yeah.
so healing on a soul level. And that's why I love, and I'm sure that's why I love doing Akashic Records reading for people as well. You're helping people heal on a soul level. And
Yeah.
there's nothing more beautiful than that. So I totally
Yeah.
understand it. But do
So
you have any
true.
final words for the podcast? before we leave?
Yeah, of course. So I actually just want to, as you were talking about all of the different modalities, maybe this is something that I would like to, I feel like I want to share now. So all of the modalities are simply just different ways for you to utilize and work with energy. Okay. So if you're at the start of this journey, anybody who is listening or is at the start of this journey, everything is energy. So mediumship is the modality that you utilize to connect with the energy of people who are on the other side, right?
Mm,
The Akashic records are the modalities that you utilize to understand somebody's soul's history, right?
mm,
Then there's for example, energy cleansing or energy healing is a modality that you utilize for the person's energy in their current body where they are right now, right? So it's all different things. Spirit guides is another language that you utilize to understand what's around somebody's energy, right? So I want you to understand that the main word here is energy. And if you don't know where to start, just allow your soul to guide you. Let it take you. If you feel connected to the Akashic records, then just go there, and um don't think you have to do everything. All of these are simply just modalities for us to be able to utilize a language that is not spoken with words, but all of it is energy, and it's always existing all around us.
those are beautiful words. Thank you so much for sharing and being so in depth with them. I think to add to what you've said, for anyone that's just starting on this journey, a lot of studying is important from my perspective, training, exercises,
Yeah,
practices, knowing what you're really doing and why you're doing it. Okay. A lot of times people think it's like a gimmick or something to used to be cool,
mm,
but this is such a deep practice. Like for me,
yeah,
I'm where I am in terms of tarot and astrology because I studied and studied and I took more classes from people that were have been tarot readers for a long period of time and I've been following their work. I'm always in classes, study, study, study. If you're a technical person, because every path is different, but don't be
yeah,
afraid to do the practical work, the theoretical work, understand the history of what you're doing, understand how it's used. The ethics is very important and boundaries. Okay. That's what I would
yeah,
say. Yeah.
yeah. I totally agree with you. Yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Thank you. So, Gloria, thank you so much for joining me here on the podcast. It was a wonderful episode. I'm really, really glad we had this conversation. I love your energy. Like I made it my intention when we first started. I was like, I want my heart to expand in this conversation, and it did, and I'm happy about
Yeah.
that. I hope that you also experienced the same.
I
And
am so happy. Thank you so much, Viv. Thank you for having me. I absolutely love your energy too. I feel
thank
that we
you.
really vibe. So this is
Yes.
great.
My
This is great.
pleasure.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you so much, everyone.